Hello. Welcome to another episode. Thank you so much for sharing and enjoying revisiting these episodes. I have loved going back into the archives and just remembering all the lovely conversations. And Luna is 3 on Saturday, and so many of these conversations happened before she was even in the world. And yeah, it's just really weird the way that time works sometimes. Anyway, we are kicking off with Jessica Stewart, who is one of my in real life best pals in the whole world. She's a yoga teacher. I firmly believe she helped me bring my son Earthside into the world. Even though I thought I would have this wondrous Glastonbury water birth experience, not actually in Glastonbury, with my son, it was not to be. It was quite a, how do I say it in a positive way? Complex situation. But she gave me so many tools to help me with that process. And her yoga practice that she shared with me has just been so valuable for my life. And I mean, I could go on, but in this episode, she shares how she was living in India with her son and how she came back to London and she became a mum very young, and what that transition was like. And as she says in this episode, she sort of did things in an unusual way around. And yeah, she's just amazing. Anyway, then episode 38 is with Natalie and Dan Reynolds, who are the founder of Fred and Noah. These are a really interesting brand to follow because they've managed to take their clothing brand into something quite different. I know that there was definitely a time in Instagram world, certainly in 2018, of just putting together some clothes, and they grew this enormous following and really created a clothing brand to the next level. So there's lots to learn from here. Also, I'm talking to Lola, who is the founder of One Girl Band, and she is such a community leader. And in this episode, we discuss the importance of that community, especially when it's so easy to have that flexibility of working from anywhere, working from home, working on your terms. The idea that community still needs to be part of who you are and that feeling of connection is just a really great reminder. Finally, I am talking to Lena, who is a screenwriter and also the founder of Raising Films. I've done some work with Raising Films over time of really questioning how we can make the entertainment industry, the creative industries, more accessible to people's life circumstances. Notoriously, it's a very early start and it's a very late finish. And that doesn't provide much wiggle room for anything else in life. And her and several of her co-founders have really been fundamental in questioning how we can make this industry more inclusive, how we can make it more workable so we don't lose creatives and the industry becomes much more balanced and diverse. So it's a really, really important question. As always, if I can help you with anything, do come over to my shop, nikiraby.com/shop. There's all the details of how I can support you on a short-term or a long-term basis, or even online. Come on over, have a look. Email me hello@nikiraby.com if you need any support. And let's do this. Come on. Like, we're in the second half of the year now. There's so much I know that you want to build and create. So if there is stirs, if there's niggles, you know what to do. All right. Enjoy today's episode. Lots of love. Bye.
Arranged to stay with friends while I found somewhere to rent again. And I distinctly remember my dad had picked us up from the airport and was driving us back through, and I just had a really strong feeling. I was like, I cannot come back here. I cannot come back.
I've
like
seen
after
too
the
much.
I'm a changed person. No, it was nothing too wanky. It was just a feeling of like, no, I can't. I don't fit the same mold again. And I couldn't really put it into words, but I ended up staying with my mum then for a couple of weeks instead in Brighton. And actually, when I was away, I had been teaching in retreat centres in India, and got some of the students that had been there on the retreat had contacted the studio that they went to regularly in London, and requested that I teach because they'd really enjoyed the retreat. So I'd actually come back and had an email from a studio in London saying, "Are you based in London? Because if you are, we've had a few students come in and say they'd really like you on the schedule. So let us know if you're interested."
Based in London as of tomorrow.
Yeah, so I was then like, oh. And by then, Mabon's dad had moved to London as well. So in terms of sharing the parenting and making sure he had access and could see Mabon, and that I could build my career, I was like, well, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's funny, I kind of, as I said, did everything back to front. So had a child really young and had moved to the countryside to do that perfect baking bread and making raw food all day long kind of life. And then I've reversed it and kind of came to London when he was a bit older. Yeah, now it's, steak and chips every night, out on the tiles. Yeah. So that's what we did.
And so how did you... Because so not only were you reinventing yourself as a mum, like living in a busy city and all of that, but also starting your career and being something separate from being a domesticated mum, I guess. How was that transition?
A really rude awakening. Like that was a really, really tough time for sure. There's on every single level actually. So there's a distinct difference to the yoga scene in London compared to where I had been in Sussex. It's much more gentle. There were poses that everyone was doing in London that I just had never done, because it's much more stable, grounded, more kind of meditation based practice in the area that I was. So it was a sudden shock to my system in terms of, wow, I need to really step up to change my practice and change my teaching. The pace of London is obviously hugely quicker. I had to try and find ways very, very quickly on my feet to have Mabon for schooling and childcare, as well as trying to put my antennae outwards and get jobs and land my first few jobs in London. And that's super tricky. There are zillions of yoga teachers in London. They're all great. A lot of them are very, very available for standing in for cover. Yeah. And I had to try and be as available as possible and be as excellent as they were, whilst managing a child pretty much on my own, and taking him to he was in a new kindergarten, he was going to new childcare people, and I'd been a very hands-on kind of full-time mum until that point. So it was a harsh year for sure.
No. I remember when you started Instagram and you started to like it, and you said, like, Instagram's brilliant. I love Instagram. It's all pictures. I love it. It's so much more interactive.
And it must have been that Instagram have been going, where have you been? You're finally here. We've been waiting to embrace you.
Well, I remember when we got to 100 followers and I had like a mini celebration in the kitchen. I was over the moon. How many followers did we hit yesterday morning, sorry, huh? We have just hit 76,000. 75 yesterday morning, wasn't it? Yeah.
And how does that feel? And how did that happen?
I think just being consistent, I think, is really important on our feed. High quality pictures. They're high quality products, so the pictures have to match. Yeah. And it has to be, the feed has to. It has to be a feed. It has to work. And I don't plan ahead of what we're going to post. It is literally. Do the school run, come home, put the kettle on, and then while the kettle's boiling, I'm usually trying to decide what it is that I'm going to post that day. I don't plan ahead.
Well, because it looks very curated, so that's lovely that you've also got that freedom as well to go, actually, we're going to post this because it's much more fitting with what's going on in the world or whatever. Yeah.
I think it's better to be that way. But some mornings we can be sat at a table for 20 minutes trying to decide. I want to do that. I want to post that.
we haven't really got much down stock. We can't post that. So it's, we just pick every day what to choose.
Brilliant. And how important have stories been in the mix as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a new thing for us. We've only been using them probably in the last 6 months, I guess. Yeah, I love stories. I think anything that we want to say or post that we can't do on the main feed, we just use stories for.
And it's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But it's not permanent. It's great.
And I think for us, the stories, we try to use that to kind of show people, the people behind the brand.
Yeah, 100%, don't we?
Yeah. Sometimes, at the weekend, that might be pictures of us out with the kids, or mostly it's just us at work goofing around.
Yeah.
As when you have somewhere to go and work and to go and just be you and not worry about kind of just how you're coming across or anything like that, not to worry about any other people and just focus on you, it makes such a difference to productivity and everything.
Yeah, and just that sense of going, what do you think of this? Is that giving off the right tone? Having that other pair of eyes and support is lovely as well. And how did the podcast start as well?
So the podcast started, in fact, a year ago today is our anniversary, which is bizarre.
If I was with you in person, we would have some kind of brilliant cake.
Yes. Oh, I'd always be up for cake. You know that. No, it started, I've been kind of creating content, since the beginning, really. I've always written, I've always done blog posts. And One Girl Band actually started as a blog series with my first business. It was called, I think it was something like Being the One Girl Band Behind Your Small Business or something weird like that. And so I've been writing the newsletters and the blog posts, and I've always loved podcasts. I love Adam Buxton and kind of the original podcasters. And it just felt like a natural progression. It kind of felt like there was either YouTube or podcasts, and I knew I didn't want to do YouTube. I don't like speaking on camera, and it doesn't really gel well with me. Whereas podcasting, I love the accessibility of it, the creation, the process. It's fun for me. Yeah. And I think, especially now when there's more and more podcasts coming out, which is brilliant, it's so, so good. But I feel like some people are starting to choose to do podcasts because they feel they have to. And then I hear them go, I hate it. Like, I hate editing. I hate and I'm like, don't do it. If you don't like it, don't do it. It's the same as stories on Instagram. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. No one is kind of sitting there going, you need to be doing a story right now.
Why are you not being visible?
Yeah. Like, where are you? Who are, like, why aren't you doing a podcast? It's like, you don't have to do absolutely everything.
You probably get maybe a slightly different answer from all of the 5 founders, but I think, I mean, the joke is that we would like to not need to exist, but at least I think that would be the dream. I somehow don't think that we will achieve that in 5 years' time. But ideally, we would like for the industry to work in a way that racing films no longer need to be there, or maybe has morphed into something else that is more of a community space. But I think that'll take longer. But that would be the ideal, that actually we have created an industry that is encompassing for parents and carers.
Yes.
But as there's, our conversation up until now has been very focused on parents, and we haven't even started on carers because I think they have an even harder time. So because then it's somehow not really recognized, I think, how hard that is. And so that's a whole other conversation that really needs focus as well.
Yeah.